Our Sunshine Girls are warming up for the World Netball Championships in Australia this August, and they need your support. So be sure to drop by the National Indoor Sports Centre in Kingston to cheer them on as they take on England in the third and final match in the series, which goes down tomorrow, January 13. Hello and thanks for joining us for another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson, your guide through what promises to be an information-packed show. Coming up, a look at the major achievements of the Justice Ministry in 2014, plus the reasons insurance is a good idea. Stick around as we open the magazine with a word of advice, followed by the latest from the news desk.
Government health centers and hospitals have an adequate supply of paracetamols like Panadol and Cetamol to treat the chikungunya virus. Paracetamol in the public health sector is free of cost. For more on chikungunya and the medication, call the Ministry of Health toll-free at 1-888-1-LOVE. That's 1-888-663-5683. Mondays to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Good day, I'm Stacey Ann Smith, and this is your JIS News for Monday, January 12. Stakeholders who attended the recent National Council meeting of the Partnership for Jamaica have commended the government for staying the course under Jamaica's Economic Reform Program, ERP. At the meeting held last Thursday, Finance Minister Dr. Peter Phillips updated partners on the ERP and preparations for the upcoming budget. Prime Minister Portia Simpson-Miller, who chaired the meeting, encouraged council members to continue working together to uplift the country. The Partnership for Jamaica meeting last week was the first for 2015 and involved government, civil society, trade unions and representatives of the private sector. Government is projecting that Jamaica and the region stand to benefit significantly from the recent meeting of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC. The meeting was held in Beijing, China on January 8 and 9. Minister of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining Philip Paulwell, who attended the conference, said there was a mutual understanding with Chinese business interests.
Some significant developments have taken place. I can't speak specifically to some of them, but over time we will see some specific activities emerging out of the bilateral discussions we were able to achieve.
And with a number of Chinese investments now underway in Jamaica, he said other countries in the region were examining the relationship model between Jamaica and China. The CELAC meeting brought together government ministers from all 33 member states. Good news for the business community as government moves to implement the new insolvency law designed to help keep struggling businesses afloat. Retired Justice Roy Anderson has been appointed as the interim supervisor of insolvency effective December 31. The Supervisor of Insolvency plays an integral role in the implementation of the Act, which deals with bankruptcy for individuals and corporate entities. Under the Act, individuals or companies that have fallen into or are on the brink of bankruptcy will get a chance to implement viable strategies to keep their businesses afloat. The Supervisor of Insolvency will investigate the conduct of persons applying for bankruptcy, the causes of bankruptcy, and report the findings to the trustee and the court. The Jamaica Constabulary Force is to establish a special unit to deal with acts of terrorism. The Police Flying Squad and the Organized Crime Investigative Division will merge to form this special anti-terrorism unit.
That is to ensure that the two divisions or formations are much more effective in dealing with robbers and organized crime and all those kinds of issues. They are going to be much more involved in anti-terrorist enforcement. They are going to be trained more specifically in investigating crimes that are normally done by terrorists.
The police commissioner was speaking at a recent press conference. And finally, proceeds from this year's staging of the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast will go towards helping victims of human trafficking. Secretary of the Prayer Breakfast Committee, Clyde Edwards, who made the announcement recently, urged persons to support the cause.
Between the United Church out in Negril and the Ministry of Justice, there is an effort afoot to help those who have gone through the trafficking challenge and to provide for them housing and rehabilitatory efforts.
Government has implemented a number of programs to fight human trafficking, including the establishment of the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons and a public education campaign. The National Leadership Prayer Breakfast will be held on Thursday, January 15, under the theme Return, Reconnect, Rebuild with God. It begins at 7:30 a.m. at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stacey Ann Smith. Thank you for watching.
I had a plan for my life. I was going to be a doctor. I was going to be the first in my family to do great things. Then a friend of mine sold me into prostitution. You mash up my life.
Stop human trafficking. It destroys lives. If you or anyone you know has been a victim of human trafficking, call 811 or 1-888-PROTECT. Be wise. Open your eyes. Spot them. Stop them. A message brought to you by the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons.
The Office of the Prime Minister has begun the year on a very productive note, with support being thrown behind the Akampong Maroons, who celebrated 227 years since the treaty with the British. The OPM has also thrown its weight behind the island's netballers, who are currently contesting a 3-match series against England. Those and other stories are in Jamaica House Weekly.
Let's continue to work with respect and understanding. Mrs. Simpson Miller urges members of the Partnership for Jamaica to stay the course. Alia Atkinson receives heroes welcome, and the Sunshine Girls get high-level support as they battle it out in their 3-match series against England. With this week's Jamaica House Weekly, I'm Andrea Chisholm. Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller has reiterated government's commitment to ensuring that the Partnership for Jamaica National Council continues to operate for the benefit of the Jamaican people. At the Council's first meeting for 2015, the partners received an update on Jamaica's progress and budget report from Finance and Planning Minister Dr. Peter Phillips. The members used the meeting to commend the government for maintaining Jamaica's economic reform program and consistently meeting economic targets. For her part, Mrs. Simpson Miller encouraged the Partnership Council members to continue to work together with dialogue, respect and understanding. Jamaica has successfully passed 6 consecutive performance assessments by the IMF board and experienced annual economic growth of approximately 1%. When news broke that there had been a deadly attack on French news magazine Charlie Hebdo, Mrs. Simpson Miller quickly sent a letter of support for the government and people of the French Republic. In the letter to French President François Hollande, the Prime Minister described the attacks as a barbaric assault and expressed her deepest sympathy to the people. She said the Jamaican people condemned the heinous attack on freedom of expression. The Prime Minister made herself available for several courtesy calls in the past week. On Wednesday, she met with High Commissioners who are set to depart the island for South Africa and Trinidad and Tobago. Mrs. Simpson Miller also met with representatives of the housing sector. And Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller also received the island's senior netballers and the visiting team from England, who are currently playing a 3-match series at the Indoor Sports Centre. During last Tuesday's meeting, the Prime Minister expressed her continued support for the netballers and thanked the English team for helping in Jamaica's preparation for the World Netball Championships this August. And on Wednesday, the minister responsible for sport in the Office of the Prime Minister launched the Supreme Ventures-funded 3-match netball series.
I'm expecting a lot. I'm expecting greatness. We are indeed expecting that out of this series, we will recognize that you are ready, prepared, or on the road to go rush down under. And this is where it begins.
Mrs. Nita Headley also had a special word for the island's senior netballers.
You are so motivated You're so well prepared that you're going to go out there, give it your best, and you're going to be victorious. As a nation, we are proud of you. As a team, we know you will do well. Congratulations on taking it this far. All of you who will be named today, you are most deserving of your placement.
In the meantime, Minister Nita Headley revealed that government was the largest sponsor of the sport this year, pointing also to expansion plans for the Leela Robinson netball courts. She said the courts would be getting brand new stands in the coming weeks to house some 2,000 patrons. And on Saturday, Minister Natalie Nita Headley was at the stadium complex when the three-match series got underway, witnessing firsthand the 56-47 defeat delivered by the Sunshine Girls. She also showed her support for the Sunshine Girls when England's Roses came back to take the second match with a 55-47 scoreline on Sunday. And Mrs. Nita Headley was also on hand to receive 100-meter breaststroke champion Alia Atkinson at the Norman Manley International Airport Friday. At a welcome reception, the minister lauded Alia's achievement and described her as an inspiration to the Jamaican people.
You have inspired our young people to achieve greatness, and not only in swimming, but in every sphere of their lives. You have always demonstrated great humility, your power in the water, your determination, your fight, your integrity, your dope-free body, your positive attitude are all hallmarks of a descendant of Nanny the Warrior.
In December 2014, Atkinson won gold, equaling the world record in the World Championship short course 100-meter breaststroke in Doha, Qatar. In expressing extreme pride at Alia's achievement, the minister reiterated government's commitment to enhancing sporting infrastructure on the island. And the OPM, through the minister responsible for information, celebrated the birthday of Maroon leader Kodjo and the 277 years since the Accompong Maroons signed that historic treaty with England. In her address, Senator Sandria Faulkner called on the Maroons to continue to work hard to keep their vibrant culture intact.
Let us not lose the tradition of the Maroons. Let us ensure that many, many generations after us will know what the Maroons represent, what they represent for our country, and the significant role that the Maroons have played in taking our country to the place where it is now.
And that's it for this week's edition of Jamaica House Weekly. Join us next week for more of the stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.
It was a robust legislative year for the Ministry of Justice in 2014. Several critical pieces of legislation were brought before the Houses of Parliament, all designed to improve the island's economic, social and safety standing. Watch as we recap the ministry's successes last year.
High on government's agenda of strategic priorities in 2014 was security and justice for all Jamaicans. The Ministry of Justice was government's lead machinery for achieving one half of that target, even while supporting the other. This is the 2014 Year in Review for Justice. In 2014, government successfully tackled an aggressive legislative agenda. Critical laws were passed to help the country meet its IMF obligations and economic reform program.
The bill seeks to move the framework for banking business closer to the governing international standards in this area.
There was also support for the crime-fighting effort and government's strategic priority focus on social inclusion for vulnerable groups.
Today, joy fills the heart of many Jamaicans across this country, especially those within the community of persons with disabilities.
Among others for which it was the main architect was legislation for ganja reform. Both the Senate and House of Representatives passed legislation in the second half of last year, making it possible for persons charged with possession of or smoking small quantities of marijuana to have their criminal records cleared.
It establishes a criminal records rehabilitation board which reviews all applications for expungement, and expungement is discretionary. It is not as of right.
Legislation was also drafted to decriminalize the possession of small quantities of ganja and allow the possession and use of ganja for scientific research as well as for religious and medicinal purposes.
The proposed changes represent an approach which will inure to the benefit of the persons concerned and the society as a whole and reduce the burdens on the court system.
Cabinet also approved revision of the Dangerous Drugs Act to legally grant licenses for the development of local medical marijuana and industrial hemp industries under a controlled regime. Beyond the legislature, several programs were pursued in 2014 to reform the justice system. In November, the justice system received the lion's share of a €46 million grant from the European Union.
This is important in advancing gender-responsive, accountable and effective justice services, especially for vulnerable groups.
Earlier in the year, Cabinet approved replacing the Court Management Services with a new body, the Court Administrative Division. It's to serve as the independent body responsible for providing efficient and effective administrative and management services to Jamaican courts.
The proposed changes would add significant value to the work and effectiveness of the judiciary, will reinforce judicial independence, and will enhance the quality of justice being administered to the Jamaican people.
In May, Cabinet also approved the reform of the jury system. It calls for several changes that will broaden the number of persons eligible to serve as jurors, deter persons from refusing the service, and protect the interests of those who serve.
Drafting instructions have been issued to the Chief Parliamentary Council for the preparation of the required legislation.
The Justice Ministry's 2014 calendar also included initiatives to expand court facilities and enhance courtroom operations.
Today, we are not only handing over this facility to the Chief Justice and the judiciary and the administrators of the court, but to the people of St. Thomas and its environs, of Morant Bay and its environs, whom it will serve.
The new Morant Bay Courthouse was completed in July at a cost of $45 million. In the year, 3 additional courtrooms were also provided at the Supreme Court in downtown Kingston, increasing the number to 15. And Minister Golding received 29 computers for deployment in the court system under the Justice Undertakings for Social Transformation JUST program. To boost personnel, 5 judges were sworn into higher office by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen at King's House. They were appointed to serve as judges of appeal, tuny judges, and master in chambers. Meanwhile, 331 justices of the peace were sworn in. Last year, the ministry also continued developments under its restorative justice program to keep more cases out of the court system.
Restorative justice requires offenders to take responsibility for their actions and for the harm that they have caused. It seeks redress for victims, recompense by offenders, and reintegration of both offenders and victims within their communities.
60 persons were trained as restorative justice facilitators, and in a move that jointly supported the strategic priorities of human capital development and national security, the ministry drafted a trafficking in persons curriculum that will be taught to students in grades 7 to 9. The manuals were handed over to the Ministry of Education in November.
The infusion of human trafficking into the secondary school's curriculum will ensure that over the next few years, every child who comes through the formal education system will be aware of the issue of human trafficking. This will substantially decrease their vulnerability.
The Ministry of Justice in 2014, advancing Jamaica's legislative portfolio, speeding up the process of justice, and supporting upward social mobility.
and expansion of over 15 schools. New textbook policy. 16,000 computer tablets distributed in schools. Just some of the major news coming from the Education Ministry in 2014, all part of its focus on student achievement. Get the inside information on the year that was. The Year in Review, inside Jamaica Magazine.
We are trying to do more with what we have to advance student achievement.
At the start of a new year, most of us are likely to be preoccupied with plans to make greater strides in various aspects of our lives. While you plan, consider the future of your family and your ability to bounce back after a mishap. If you think about those things, you must consider insurance.
Insurance is a fairly old concept, but it's simple.
It is a promise to pay for some damage or loss that occurs to somebody or a business for the exchange of a premium, a charge. So you pay me to cover for some unfortunate, unforeseen loss that causes damage, and if it happens, I'll pay out whatever it costs you.
In essence, persons pay a premium or money on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis depending on the arrangements, and if something happens, the insurance company will in turn give you money or assistance to compensate for the loss. Now, even though there are different types of insurance, they fall into 6 main categories: auto, property, liability, life and health, money, and business interruption.
It's about insuring your physical property, your home, your business, equipment or contents in your home or in your business, and the insurance covers you for a multitude of different things, from fire to hurricane to flood, earthquake, etc.
So in the event that your roof was blown off during a hurricane, for example, once your insurance policy makes provision for that, you will be able to replace your roof.
Life insurance is covering you, the person, in case of that unfortunate demise. You buy a life insurance policy and it's supposed to last throughout your life. And then when you do go, the insurance company will pay out to your beneficiary who you stated on the policy.
Those beneficiaries can be your spouse, children, family member, or friend. It gives them a chance to take care of expenses that you would have taken care of if you were alive, while giving them a chance to adequately take care of themselves. Life insurance policies also come with an investment component that allows you to get a sum of money over a specified period. It's a similar thing for health insurance. If you get sick, your insurance provider will ease the burden by paying a part of the doctor's fee or fees associated with pharmaceuticals. Getting an insurance policy is not as difficult as one may think. Jamaica has over 10 insurance companies and scores of brokers and agents. You can access the market by speaking with any of these persons.
So they would be able to guide you from there and tell you what type of coverage is required, give you an application form. It usually involves an application form you complete, and come up with a premium that you're going to pay. And in exchange for that, you'll get a contract that says, if these things happen, we will pay your loss.
Once customers adhere to the terms and conditions outlined in the policy contract, the insurance companies are entitled to compensate customers for any loss they face. Now, cost of living is getting higher, and some may argue that their disposable incomes cannot afford additional demands. How do you choose which insurance policy is important?
Well, the first ones are the ones that are required by law or regulation. You can't avoid those. So you're driving a car and the law says you have to carry a minimum amount of insurance. So even with the rising cost of living, you have to make sure that you're budgeting for your insurance for your car because it's a requirement by law. You want to consider all the eventualities of life and what can displace you and your normal livelihood. And if you can afford to be displaced by a certain amount, then those are policies that you can cut back on. For the ones that you cannot afford to be displaced by, then you need to maintain those policies. Gentleman, let's call him Joe the plumber. He's a primary breadwinner for the family. Wife doesn't work, 2 kids in school, he's supporting the family. He has his life insurance policy. That's something that you don't want to stop paying. You don't want to stop paying that because you have people depending on your income to survive. So before you think about cutting that one, you need to look at other ways in your life that you can save, because that's very important if something should happen to you.
So if Joe the plumber had a $1 million life insurance policy, his family could get that money to continue meeting their basic needs. From time to time, insurance companies are known to give customers the runaround, but there are certain things you can do to minimize the hassle. Keep a checklist. Learn all you can about the claims process, speak to your representative frequently, submit required documentation on time, and stick to the terms and conditions of the contract.
Read the policies. Most companies have specimen policies available, sample policies available. If they're not readily available, if you ask for it, they can make them available to you. Contact a broker, contact an agent, sit with somebody, especially when it gets more complex, to explain issues to you. Make sure you read the policy and ask questions.
So it does pay to insure. Think about the types of insurance that work best for you. Make the sacrifice to pay the necessary premiums. It makes no sense being penny wise and pound foolish.
Welcome to the FSC Minute. I am Nadine Newsom. Joining me is Sonia Nicholson, Acting Senior Director of Securities at the FSC. Welcome to the FSC Minute, Sonia.
Thank you, Nadine.
Sonia, how does the FSC protect an investor in a licensed entity?
Nadine, there are a number of ways in which the FSC protects investors in licensed entities. I will just highlight a few. We do desk and routine examinations of the licensees. In addition to that, we review the periodic filings which these entities submit to the FSC. These reports can be daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly reports. We also do enhanced monitoring of problem institutions. Problem institutions are really entities that have a history of non-compliance. In addition to that, we issue public notices in relation to specific actions which are allowed by our legislation in terms of our licensed entities. We also do fit and proper assessment. And the fit and proper assessment is to establish that persons are of sound probity, they are able to exercise judgment, diligence in relation to the licensee, and to establish that their actions do not in any way threaten the investors of a licensees. And in addition to that, we also do investigations of complaints.
Thank you, Sonia. My guest today was Sonia Nicholson, Acting Senior Director of Securities at the FSC. For the FSC Minute, I am Nadine Newsom.
The show has come to a close on this medium, but we're only a click away online at jis.gov.jm or youtube.com/watchjis. We'd love to hear your thoughts on our offerings, so send an email to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm, or you can share your ideas on Twitter or Facebook. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thank you for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.